put your soul in mine. Well, baby, come get lost in my wild and crazy ride.
Welcome to the Rhebel podcast with Deborah Danielson. Our series is Adventure Travel. The definition of an adventure vacation can vary depending on the individual traveler. For some people, an adventure vacation might involve going to a safari in Africa, while for others it might involve hiking the Appalachian Trail. Ultimately, what defines an adventure vacation is the individual traveler. We're going to talk about one option of adventure travel, that is paranormal experiences. Paranormal travel experiences are among the top sought-after destinations, which might include house experiences, cemetery tours, and institutions such as jails, mental hospitals, and battlefield sites. In October, we're celebrating Halloween. This is driving ghost tours around the globe. Before you take a paranormal experience, remember to seek out reputable tour operators. A few reports of deaths associated with ghost adventure travel activities have been reported, but it is really difficult to determine if these are legitimate or if they were actually caused by paranormal activities or just plain being unaware of your surroundings, just plain goofing around. One of the most well-known cases is the death of a 28-year-old man who was found dead in his hotel room after participating in a ghost tour at the Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The man's autopsy report did not reveal any obvious cause of death, and his family and friends believe that he may have been frightened to death by a paranormal encounter. What do you say? And I am so glad today to have this wonderful guest, Bill Cutler Sr.
Thank you.
Bill represents the funeral industry in our city. My grandma always told me growing up, my Victorian grandma, that you were the people that really gave a nice celebration, a respectful way to take the people that we love and cherish, to celebrate them and to take them to their resting place. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, because it's Halloween, because there's a lot of people going on historic tours in our area, especially the Fairview Cemetery and a lot of the other cemeteries in town. If you could just take a look to talk about how the Cutlers got into the funeral business and, you know, like, how are you inspired every day by helping people through a grieving process?
Well, our family came to Council Bluffs in 1901 from LaPorte, Indiana, where my great-great-grandfather was in funeral service.
Wow.
So what I think brought my great-grandfather to Council Bluffs was he had met a lady that lived in Council Bluffs. So he and his family moved to Council Bluffs.
Mm-hmm.
They started the funeral home. It's still on Willow Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually down on Pearl Street when they started in a storefront, and then moved down to Bayless Park in the 1920s, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been my great-grandfather, and then my grandfather was in the funeral service for a short time, and then he left funeral service and became a dentist. And so it was my great-uncle that then ran the funeral home that my father took over in 1957.
Okay.
And we lived up behind the Dodge House. So my first indoctrination to our funeral home was walking to Bloomer School every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so after school, I would just stop at the funeral home just to say hello. And so my father said, if you're going to stop, you're going to work. And so my first,
It's that old ethic of work.
Right.
Got to earn your
Right.
pay and earn your
Right.
keep.
so
Yeah.
I started sweeping the front porch and the sidewalk, which I'd realized had been done many times before I got there. But I just grew up around funeral service. I witnessed my father. His life was revolved around funeral service. And so we just followed into his footsteps, and my son has followed my footsteps. And so my son is actually the 5th generation member of our family to be in funeral service. So it's just growing up, it was just a way of life. What went on at the mortuary dictated what went on in our home.
So when you went to school, did anybody, when they found out what your family did anybody give you like a hard time? You know how kids are, right? They say weird things.
No, I never got browbeat. There were always questions. It's
Yeah.
always, death is for a youngster is an unknown topic.
It can be very frightening.
It is frightening, but my father told me one time. He said, "Junior, it's the live ones you got to be afraid of, not the deceased." And so,
I believe that too.
but he was very strict about what went on in the mortuary. I wasn't allowed just to walk in the door. Matter of fact, I don't think I was even allowed in the building until I was in junior high school.
Wow.
Just
out of respect.
And so I just have grown up in it. I've never done anything else. I've never wanted to do anything else. And my son, I think, feels the same way.
Well, that's amazing, that you have that passion. And I think that, God makes a purpose for each and every one of us. And thank goodness we all do different things or we'd be a mess.
Yeah.
So I'm especially interested in the whole process of tradition. How do these traditions in doing the preparation of the body and presenting I guess most people call it a wake
or visitation.
A visitation. How does that evolve?
Well, funeral homes were a follow-up of cabinet makers, because people would have a death. They didn't do any embalming, but they wanted to place their deceased in something that's pretty. So they would go to a cabinet maker, have the cabinet maker build a casket. So they'd place the deceased in the casket, then they bury the casket, and it just evolved from there, where World War II and World War I, they started embalming to preserve the body, and it just kind of parlayed from that, where what it is today, where the death occurs, we're called, we do the preparation, do the planning with the family. Some choose a funeral service, a religious service, some choose all sorts of different services. Some choose cremation. So our responsibility is to sit down, listen to what a family's wishes are, because every family's different, and hopefully create a situation that when they're done, they said, that's exactly what mom wanted or dad wanted. And my father always told me, treat everybody we serve as if it's your mother.
Every time we've had a loved one pass on, and we've had any kind of a service or a wake or a visitation, especially at a time, I think the most traumatic was when one of my cousins had drowned in the Missouri River. And it was a while before they found him. So there was no way to have any open casket or anything. And as a very young child, I know I was afraid to go into the funeral home. But because of the kind people that you have there, and because they are so welcoming at the door, it's almost like you don't feel like you're left alone or you're worried about anything, because there's people there to help you and people there that will listen to you. And it really, to me, touched my heart. In here 40 years later, right, I'm remembering it. It just touched my heart that so much care and concern was around it. There was nothing scary. There was nothing horrible, except that, you know, here was an 18-year-old person gone, right?
Well, youngsters and young people are it's never easy.
No.
It's never easy. And of course, our role is to facilitate helping them get through what is an awful experience for most people.
Yes.
I've never had anybody come into our funeral home and say, Bill, I'm glad to be here.
How do you deal with that every day? I mean, you have to have some of the worst situations on a daily basis. Does that get hard to deal with?
Well, again, I may be unusual, but that's the way we grew up.
Yeah.
I've never known anything other than taking care of people at a sad time in their life. It's really just, you listen to what people are saying. People come to us at a time that they never want to be there. They're usually mentally and physically exhausted.
Exactly.
Fortunately, they don't do this very often, so they don't really know where to go. So our responsibility is to help them and guide them through whatever sort of final service they want to have. It can be as elaborate as they want to, as they wish, or they could go out in their backyard and have a picnic and honor their loved one. So there's no wrong or right way to do it. It used to be very simple, but it's changed over the course of several years. And our goal is that when we've completed our service to a family, that they turn to each other, and they say, that's exactly what Mom wanted.
I was doing some research, and not too far from where a lot of your relatives are buried, my relatives are over at the very entrance of one of the one of the grave sites, yes. So I went up there to do a little videotape, and I happened to go inside and was talking to one of the people in there. And I said, Emily Sophia Danielson died of the Spanish flu. And so she got out some books.
And we have records that go back from the very first
And
burial.
I had no idea that my great grandfather was, number one, broke at the time, but number two, because of the pandemic, there was literally no time or place to get a grave and to have the money to pay for it and whatnot. And so there were all these people that needed a place to be buried. So she said, well, she was put in a temporary grave, and she stayed there and they gave me the whole time frame. Well, in the meantime, her son had been killed in a tragic car accident. So there was my great-grandfather sitting over here doing dry cleaning, mending uniforms from the wars, and, doing all these things. And he got the money together. He bought all the funeral plots, and they reburied Sophia, Emily Sophia, and then they buried the son right next to them. But I would have never known that if I hadn't have gone into the office at the grave site there, and it was just amazing how much history's in there.
Well, there's a lot of history because they keep records of everybody that's buried.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then I saw the picture of the beautiful glass hearse, and I'm like, wow, I felt like I was in Buckingham Palace. I thought, wow, I've only seen that on TV, right, in London.
Well, they used to be big, because I used to have to, when I was washing cars, I'd have to get a stepladder to wash the top.
I read a journal that my great-great-aunt, Amelia Victoria Danielson Knott, put together. And she wrote this in 1980 when she was 85.
Okay.
She passed away when she was right around 100. She talked about when her parents came over from Copenhagen, settled here, and how they got married. And then she said, and it wasn't long after they, had their first son, Edmund. And he was 2 when he passed away because there was a diphtheria thing going on. And I think this was 1895. that he passed away.
Okay. That was before my time. by the
I
way.
know, but this is what's fascinating about all of this. I had no idea, and he's buried up in Fairview Cemetery. So I went up to Fairview Cemetery when somebody told me that that's where his grave was. And I looked everywhere. I looked high and low. I tried to find a record. Well, they didn't have a convenient little office like you guys have. So I went back to several people, and I found the one living human being that had taken what was left of some records when the courthouse caught on fire, I guess. Most things got
Well,
destroyed.
the city now has any records that would have been,
Right.
yeah.
And she told me, well, Deborah, here's where he's buried. Because she has a map and she has the stuff, right? But there's no headstone.
Probably no stone.
And so then I spoke to somebody else and I said, well, as I read through the journal, I found out actually that there were 3 other children that were deceased. It was explained to me at that point, well, Deborah, back then people didn't have money. And back then they took and they made their own little caskets for children. And I just want to do a check. I don't know if I'm normal or abnormal. So is it normal to want, I feel like these children came and went, and if it wasn't for my journal from my great-great aunt, I wouldn't know that. I want to put a headstone there, and I want to remember them, and I want people after me to know that they came and they were here. So do you think that that's normal, or do you think that that has a bearing on a human quality of being noted to be able to say, hey, this person lived?
Well, I think that it's normal, number one. Number two, many people just need a place to go.
Yes.
And for example, where our family is all buried, they're all there together.
Yes.
And now, do we visit there once a month? No, the answer is no. Now, I go by them a lot because I go to the cemetery a lot.
Right,
for funerals.
exactly.
But it used to be years and years and years ago. I remember on Memorial Day, there used to be the Wilcox greenhouses along Pierce Street. And the Wilcox girls would sit out in front of the entrances to the cemetery and sell flowers
Wow.
to people going to decorate the graves. And there would just be streams of cars. That tradition is not what it used to be.
Right.
Families like to have a place to go.
I think
Many
that's the
still
right
do.
answer.
And they feel that it's a time for them to remember.
I totally agree with that.
So,
I think I found my answer.
okay.
Thank you.
Good,
I
good.
really appreciate that. And thank you so much for coming today. I really
My-
appreciate
my
that.
privilege.
I know
my
you're a busy
privilege.
guy. You're hard to get
No.
an appointment with. Yeah. Well, God bless you
Everybody.
for all
Thank
the
you.
work you guys do
Thank
and the
you.
comfort that you give to
Well,
people.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on the Rhebel podcast today.
You are welcome. Thanks for having
The
me.
Cutler Funeral Home has always been a large part of Council Bluffs history, and they play a vital role in the story of Council Bluffs. Now let's go back to Fairview Cemetery and the great tours there with Shannon Justice. We're about to enter the Fairview Cemetery, one of the oldest and most historic cemeteries here in Council Bluffs. It sits high upon a bluff, and it sits just a few feet from where Abraham Lincoln and General Grenville Dodge met to put in the eastern terminus of the Union Pacific Railroad.
Now the Bloomer Monument sits on a very large platform made out of concrete. The additional monument that's there, the granite, that provides a little more information about how Amelia and Dexter were benefactors to the community of Council Bluffs. Council Bluffs and Fairview Cemetery, there's so many people looking after it. There's so many people interested in it. And I don't think most people realize that the monuments within a cemetery are generally speaking not maintained by the cemetery.
Right.
And many people don't know that. And if a family moves on and the monuments are left behind, there's no one there to take care of them. They fall into disrepair. And in some circumstances, the only documentation that a person ever existed is their grave marker.
Exactly. And that's why these grave markers are important.
Yes.
And a mausoleum, a lot of people from the affluent families went and set up a trust so that in perpetuity, hopefully, right?
Yes.
The mausoleum would be maintained and taken care of, because there is maintenance with anything.
Right.
One of the coolest, beautiful statues I've ever seen, produced by a French artist, is up in Fairview Cemetery, called the Black Angel, Ruth Ann Dodge Memorial. This was General Grenville M. Dodge's wife who passed away, and there's such a beautiful story around that. The Ruth Ann Dodge Memorial, also known as the Black Angel, sits just outside of the Fairview Cemetery. It has a beautiful story about how Ruth Ann met a black angel in her dream and then went with that angel and crossed over to the unknown. It shares a vivid history and adds to the paranormal experience of the Fairview Cemetery. And you will cover all of this in these adventure walking tours. HistoryWalksNebraska.com. I would like you to share one of your favorite books. Hold that up for anybody who wants to know more about cemeteries and the fabulous history about what you can learn and do there.
Yes, so this is my favorite cemetery funerary art book. And it is all about the iconography and the symbolism in the cemetery and what some of those symbols might represent. And it's called Stories in Stone. The author is Douglas Keister, I hope. I may have mispronounced his name. I've never met him. But these are made pocket-sized intentionally, so you can take them with you to the cemetery.
Like a field guide.
Yes. So if you see an image and you wonder what the meaning behind it could be, you could just plop open your book. And for example, let's just open this page. So if you see a dove and you are interested in knowing what the dove might mean on a grave marker, then you, it's not all inclusive, but he did an excellent job.
I look so sweet, but I'm Jekyll and Hyde. Freak of the week, got you so terrified. I only come out late at night. Savage and reckless, I'm empty inside. Bullets and booze, liquor and love. Heartbreak and heaven, it's what I'm made of. It's what I'm made of, what I'm made of. It's what I'm made of, what I'm made of. La 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 la. La 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 la. Bullets and booze. La 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 la. La 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 la. Bullets and booze.
I'm just going to introduce this to you as one of the highly recommended places to come for Halloween. And if you're really adventurous, you'll go down into the basement, because that, I guess, is where the real scary stuff is. I am here at the Museum of Shadows. Look at those. And we have two ladies hosting us here in the gift shop. As you can see, there's various things in here that might creep some people out. Oh, yeah. That people might find very frightening. And so, like, what's the thing that people fear the most when they come in here?
Definitely the dolls.
Yeah,
or
the
like in
dolls.
the basement, we have more demonic stuff down there. That's usually, there's some people that won't even go into like the next realm,
Yeah.
or like even into Claire's room and stuff like that.
Like clowns.
Yeah.
Clowns.
Clowns are scary, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Some people don't even want to go in that room. They won't even look.
Oh yeah, they
I
won't look no
can
more.
really relate to that. I mean, even as a little kid going to the circus, I was like, what are these weird ass clowns?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
People are definitely scared of the clowns, but I think Claire's the biggest one.
Yeah, definitely like the next realm and like that kind of stuff, because people won't even go past the gate. We have like a whole gate and then like holy water in the front, like giving you like a warning before you enter in.
Like, what's the most fascinating thing to you in here?
Here,
We have a full body skeleton. That,
Wow.
Like someone donated their body to like,
yeah.
not to us
No,
specifically.
they found it.
Oh, they found him.
Well, I mean, like they didn't find him, but like people found him
more
and
you
it got
know.
donated to us.
Well, that's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder
know.
if they would come to life, if they would be comfortable with that.
Honestly, yeah. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'd be curious too.
Well, you ladies have a great job. You have a fascinating place here. And I just want to share a little bit more about the Museum of Shadows, since Halloween is coming right up here. And you have some pretty cool stuff in here. So look, I survived. So you can buy these things as mementos that you did survive. And I see that you also have some dolls for sale down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those of you who like dolls and scary, freaky things, they're here. Here is this really cool wall. As you can see, there are dolls. There's no end of dolls. So here's a photo of Kaylee and Nate, owners of the Museum of Shadows. And I think that everybody should take a moment to see this Museum of Shadows and to explore, especially in light of Halloween, or if you're into the paranormal, explore it, check it out.
It's just what I choose. Oh, I'm not the corpse bride, waiting to serpentine. Even though you're a good liar, it's not too bad for me. Yeah, I look so sweet, but I'm Jekyll and Hyde. Freak of the week, got you so terrified. I only come out late at night, savage and reckless, I'm empty inside. Bullets and booze, liquor and love, heartbreak and heaven, it's what I'm made of. It's what I'm made of, what I'm made of. It's what I'm made of, what I'm made of. La 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 la. La 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 la. Bullets and booze. La 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 la. La 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 la. Bullets and booze. It's just what I choose. Bullets and booze. 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 Don't be scared. Bullets and booze.
Hope that for your wonderful, happy Halloween season, that you will take time, visit a wonderful cemetery close to you, learn a little bit about history. I hope you take a tour of one that has history, maybe with family members in it, so you can learn more about your family or your genealogy. If that's not possible and you want a ghost tour, I know that there's a lot of them out there, but remember, do your homework, get a reputable tour guide, and watch your step. Hey, it's Deborah Danielson. Thank you for listening and watching the Rhebel podcast with Adventure Travel Episode 2 Paranormal Adventures. Share it, stream it, listen, and enjoy.